Hello, this is Allie with the Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today I want to talk to you about how to change any negative habit. Okay, so most of us have a thing or a few things in our lives that we would consider negative habits that we would like to change and that we struggle with changing. So this can be anything from, not respecting your body and so eating foods that don't make you feel well, or, kind of trying to eat healthy and then sabotaging yourself, or spending more money than you have, or smoking, or judging people, any of these kind of habits that make us feel less than connected with ourselves and less than good about ourselves. And so many of us walk around feeling like we have all these false starts for changing our negative habits. Like we go on diets, or we try to budget, or we are good about not talking about someone for a day or two, or maybe we last for a week or whatever, but we always seem to fall back into our old habits. And that is why I want to make this video today, because change can definitely be challenging and change can be hard, but there is a way to go about it that will yield far greater success for you than white knuckling your way through change, or just, kind of doing what we usually do. So the first thing I want to start with is talking about the number one reason why people find it hard to change, and that is usually because most people, when they have a negative habit that they want to change, or they have something in their life that they want, to alter, they tend to focus on all the things that are going wrong, all the things that aren't working, and they focus really, really hard on where they are, which is where they don't want to be. And so, for instance, if you are someone who's struggling with your weight, you might be heavily focused on how uncomfortable you feel in your body, and how bad you're eating, and how bad you've eaten in the past, and focusing on, how weak-willed you are when it comes to food, and how frustrated you are in your situation. If you're someone who struggles with money, you might, constantly be checking your bank account and be like, oh my goodness, like my loans, there's even more interest on my loans now, I'm not getting enough money to pay off my credit card debt. You're constantly looking at how you don't have enough money and how this problem is not being resolved. And so the first thing that I want to talk about is how starting from where you are and focusing on all the things that you don't want, and focusing really hard on how things are not going in the direction you want them to be going, is actually pretty much your number one stumbling block and your number one hurdle when it comes to changing a negative habit. If you're constantly focusing so heavily on how it's not going well, how the change isn't happening, on all the things that are wrong, you're only halfway to being in a place where you can actually change. Okay, so you're only getting yourself to this, recognizing what's not going wrong, what's not going right, what is going wrong. But the longer you stay there with your focus, the harder it is to actually make positive changes. Because, like we talked about in past videos, the Willy Wig video, where you look is where you'll go. So if you're constantly focusing on all the things that aren't working, on how it's not going well, on the struggle, the chances are you're going to stay there, because that's where your point of focus is, that's where your point of attraction is, that's where you are existing in this moment, okay? So, and I know this might sound counterintuitive to not focus on the problem when you're trying to change the problem, but the thing is, you can't change the problem if you're focusing on the problem. What you want to focus on is the solution. Okay, so that might sound like a subtle difference, that might sound like not that big of a change, but it is. It's a huge change. When you go from focusing on the problem to focusing on the solution, you literally give yourself so much power and so much momentum for changing directions and actually making a positive change in your life. And that's why that is my tip number one for changing a negative habit, is start with your end game. Okay, so figure out where you want to go. Figure out So this is a very specific thing that I want you to realize. I want you to frame your goal or the thing that you want to change into the positive. Okay, so if you want to lose weight, don't say I don't want to be fat anymore. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to eat bad anymore. I want to improve my diet. Okay, you want to get specific about where you want to go. Okay, so you're not going to frame your goal or your change desire in the negative, so what you don't want, and you're not going to make it vague. So you're going to specifically state where you want to end up. Where is your end game? So I want to be at a healthy weight for my size, which you can figure out what that is. You probably know what that is. I want to eat, a diet that is mostly composed of healthy whole foods, which are fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains, whatever. I want to eat at regular intervals throughout the day. I want to exercise 3 to 4 times a week, doing something that I enjoy for this amount of time. And I want to get 6 hours of sleep or 7 hours of sleep a night. See, like that is a very specific goal. I want to feel good in my body, and these are all the things that are going to make me feel good in my body. So with the debt thing, so instead of saying I want to get out of debt, I want to change how bad I am with money, I want to have money in the bank, you say I want to pay off all my debts by this time date, and I want to be saving this amount of money a month, and I want to be putting this amount of money into retirement, and I want to be earning this amount of money per month, and say I'm going to have to figure out how to do that. So these very specific goals and focusing on the solution where you want to go is so fundamentally important for change. Okay? So, and I just want to give you an example from my own life. When I was healing from anorexia, there was a long time when I was really focused on not being anorexic anymore, not being sick. I didn't want to feel so crazy. I didn't want to have this struggle with food. I didn't want to be so obsessive with my exercise and so obsessive with my dieting. And the longer I focused on that, the longer I stayed in my negative habits. The more I focused on what I didn't want and all the things that weren't going well, the longer I stayed where I was. The second I decided to reframe my mind to my end game, so what I personally did was, what would I be doing? How would I be eating? How would I be working out? How would I be caring about my body? How would I be thinking about my body if I already had the body that I wanted and was no longer trapped in this mind game of trying to lose weight, trying to gain weight, and how my end game of how would I behave if I was healthy? How would I behave if I had a healthy relationship with my body, a healthy relationship with food, a healthy relationship with my entire world, if I was in a healthy place? Because, see, as soon as I focused on my end game, as soon as I focused on where I wanted to be rather than focusing on where I didn't want to be, I all of a sudden gave myself all this power to imagine and to invite solution into my life. Okay? Because the more you're focusing on the problem, the more you're focusing on how terrible you feel in your body, or how bad it is that you're in debt, or how, upset with yourself you are for all of these habits, you are actually blocking the solutions coming to you because your mind isn't open to finding those things, right? But as soon as you focus on your end game, as soon as you decide where you're going and how that's going to look when you're there, that's when the solutions start coming to you. Okay, so when I talk to you about having that specific goal, that, I'm going to have this, or, I would like to weigh in this weight range, and I would like to eat this much fresh fruit, and I would like my diet to look like this, I'd like my lifestyle to look like this. If you can't think of that right now, if you can't think of all those details, all you have to do is put yourself in the end game. Okay, so imagine yourself where you want to be in your body. Imagine yourself where you want to be with money. Imagine yourself where you want to be with your relationships. Imagine yourself where you want to be with smoking, right? So starting to paint this picture for yourself, and as you do that, you're going to start getting ideas and inspirations that line up with that trajectory, because that's how it works. Okay? So focus on your end game. That is step one. Really get a clear picture of your end game. Really spend time each and every single day just sitting and feeling like what it would feel like to be at that end game. And then allow the inspirations to come from there. Okay? Because again, if your inspirations are coming from this place of how things aren't working, really what that is your inspirations are coming from a place of fear. So if you're thinking about your debt and your money problems and you're trying to think of solutions from there, those are going to be fear-based solutions. Those are going to be, I'm not where I want to be, and that's really, really bad, and that's really, really uncomfortable, so I gotta do all this crazy stuff to get me out of my debt. Or, you know, if you're like, I really hate my weight, I really hate my body, I hate this whole thing, and then you're gonna go on a diet or something like that, right? Those solutions are never real solutions, right? Because they're based in fear. They're trying to move you away from something rather than moving you towards something. And you can never move away from something. You can't become not something. You have to become something, okay? So setting your intention into the positive, focusing on your end game, allowing yourself to imagine yourself in that end game often, like every day, and then allowing the inspirations that are coming from that place of love, that place of certainty, that place of peace that you will have imagined yourself in, to come to you, and then start acting on those things. Okay? So it's going to feel very different when you act from your end game rather than act from trying to get away from where you are. Okay? And in the next video, I'm going to talk to you about the white wolf, black wolf analogy, which is one of my favorites for people who are trying to change and are finding that their progress is slow or they're frustrated with what they're doing. So that's going to be the next video. And I'm really excited to talk to you guys about this stuff because I get it. Change can be really difficult, and it also feels like the things that most people recommend for how to get where you want to go don't work. And so that's why I want to give you some things that I've used in my life that have helped me to radically transform myself, and that have helped the people in my life to transform themselves as well. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns about this one, just leave them down below. I'm really happy to do that. Like, subscribe, share if you found this helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.